right, y'all. It is Mild Sauce Radio once again. We got a little bit of a switch up for y'all today. For those of y'all used to our usual hip hop, R&B, soul music side, we're making sure we get you the full discovery of what's happening in Chicago and beyond. Me, of course, I'm Jake Krez, your host from Mild Sauce Radio, and I'm here with my man Steve Breit, who's got his first show tonight of our music rock discovery. We're still working on the name, but we're working on it. What's going on, Steve?
How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for turning us on to the world of rock and Chicago and beyond.
Excellent. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. It's going to be a regular show you guys can tune into. We're working on it weekly, monthly. We're not sure yet, but idea is to bring you some of the best rock, hardcore, punk from around the city. It's a little niche show that we'll be doing, and Steve is a connoisseur of the genre. Tell us a little about yourself, Steve. What brought you to to being here on the radio today?
All right, so I'm a lifelong Chicagoan, and I would consider myself a lover, not an expert. So
that's good. I like that. I like that.
I've been living in the city my whole life, going to shows my whole life. I love the live performance side of the music world, and I'm always down to try new stuff out. So I'm usually at least a couple times a month I'm out at shows out and around the city.
And as well as that, you're also with your work, you travel quite a bit, and you end up going to shows around the country as well. So I know you've told me recently you were in New Orleans or something like that, and when you stopped in, the first thing you do is to check and see what shows are going on in town.
Oh yeah, I'm terrible. Whenever I can, if there's a down couple hours wherever I'm traveling around for work, I'm jumping online and seeing what shows are going on. The more underground, the better. I'm sneaking around, popping around the city, finding new venues, discovering new bands. That's the best time that you can just say screw it and you're in a new city, you're in a new environment, try a new club, try a band that you've never heard of, just go out there and explore.
That's what's up. I mean, that's the purest form of discovery, I guess. It's a little different than just going on Spotify and listening to stuff. We're going on Mild Sauce Radio to get some stuff. But Steve has been out in the field doing his work to make sure he brings you all the newest music. We got some, you've been to a lot of shows here in Chicago. What are some of the highlights from 2017? Because I know that's kind of the scope of what we're looking at now is what was hot in 2017, what we're looking forward to in 2018. What were a couple shows in Chicago that were were memorable for you?
Okay, so the song that we led in with, that was a track called Chirac from a local band called La Armada. They are Dominican hardcore based in Chicago down on the south side. They fucking tear it up. They take what I feel is the punk foundation of the Pilsen area that was kind of formed by bands like Los Crudos back in the 90s. And they are bringing that same intensity, that same energy, but bringing a little bit more metalcore flair to it. So, it differentiates and evolves a little bit from where those foundational seeds were planted back in the 90s. So I think they are a band that I've seen several times. I've seen them all around the city. They are such a hardworking band. You see these guys live, and you could tell that they love their craft. They're really practicing. They are stop on a dime, just tight, just really great live. You hear them and they're not slacking off. They're working hard. And this year, the biggest venue that I've ever seen them in was they did a showcase for Riot Fest this year. So they had a big stage to jump out on, and I think they did a tremendous job. They've got a new record coming out, I believe, February 18th. Okay. So keep out on the lookout for that. That was a fantastic show. I was really surprised to see them, in that big of a venue and just killing it. They had the crowd was really into it, and it was just a great performance.
Where was that one at?
That was at Riot Fest this year.
That was at Riot Fest. Okay.
Yeah, that was one of those, Sunday afternoon sets. Middle of the day. So you walk into those and you don't really know, oh man, how many people are actually going to show up to this? Does anybody really know what they, what?
But that's when you get the best fans usually too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. This was a passionate crowd, and you could tell it was local fans that have seen them before, and they're chanting the lyrics along with it. It was really high energy, and I think they fed off of it and just gave it right back to the crowd, and that was an incredible performance.
That's dope. Those little niche shows. I feel like that's really where you're coming from with a lot of these as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So take us through. I mean, obviously that was a show that you really enjoyed. We're trying to segue into. We have 5 bands that like you really want to keep an eye out on. We're trying to get some music for everybody.
Yeah.
Take us through. What do you look for in a band, and then tell us take us into what one of the bands that you'd recommend from Chicago.
So this will be a nice segue. So like one of the things
it's a real good segue.
So one of the things I love, I'll see big shows, I'll see little shows. The longer I've been out and about in the city, checking stuff out, I love the smaller the show, the better. You know what I mean? Like Beat Kitchen shows are fucking awesome. The old Double Door, that was awesome. Empty Bottle. I love that kind of like a size crowd. Those are great. But the ones that really shine, the ones that are really special are those underground ones. You find something great at Archer Ballroom or like Sanctuary down in Pilsen. And, those are the ones that I find myself most excited for, that discovery that when you could sit there and watch these bands and be like, 2 years from now, we could be sitting here watching something that 2 years from now is just going to be huge,
And that's kind of the cool thing about watching music in Chicago, just across the board, too. Mm-hmm. I mean, we see people like that every day popping out. And that DIY scene, when you're talking about specifically, shout out the guy honking outside. But what you're talking about specifically is cool because it's so insular that's launching the acts out, right? It's not like they need a label or anything. It's pure word of mouth.
Utterly DIY, yeah. Absolutely. And, you could see it in the passion in the performances and in the bands. And, call me greedy, call me selfish or whatever, but I support bands, so I'm at the merch table and I'm talking.
I think that's the opposite of selfish, my man.
But I love going to these small shows because, at the end of the set, they're hanging out, you know what I mean? They're probably at the merch table. So you can head back there and you could just start up a conversation and just chill and talk and kind of you know what I mean? Get to know these guys a little bit more on an intimate level, and that just brings you closer to the music itself. So
absolutely, yeah. They're kind of actual relationship type thing. You're a part of the world, not just listening to it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So I love those small, those small venues. Like I said, it's if I get the opportunity, I'm going up there. I'm buying a CD, I'm buying a poster, and get an autograph, talk to them. You know what I mean? Get to know them a little bit.
Hey, listeners, taking notes, man. This is how you're a real fan. This is how you're a real supporter for the community. That's awesome. There's not enough people out here buying CDs and getting merch and stuff like that. And I will attest to the fact that if you ever see Steve walking around, he usually has a band T-shirt on. So he does buy these. He's not flaunting. You can see it on the camera right now.
Yeah, man. Support local music. Support underground music.
100%, man. All right, so jump in and tell us a little bit. What's the first band you got for us?
Leading in, this was, and I'm getting a little spacey. This was either the very, very end of 2016 or the very beginning of 2017. The next band I'm going to play
blurry time for everybody, yeah.
Right, exactly. But this next band is called Attaboy. They're a Southside band. Love them. They blew me away the last time I saw them. They are this post-punk, angular, musically driven band. But, and call me crazy, but it's almost as if Fugazi was fronted by Etta James. The lead singer is tremendous. Her name is I believe Jolisha, okay. and she just fucking rules it. When I saw them, they were playing Sanctuary, which is a church community center down on 31st. So there's no stage, so she was just on the floor with the crowd and just ruling the roost. I mean, the presence that she had and just the command of the room, it was incredible. Blew me away. So the next track we're going to listen to is called Buddy Bolden.
Okay.
And that's the first track off of Attaboy's album called Salt.
All right, dope. We're going to go jump into this one real quick. We got Attaboy, Buddy Bolden. Check this one out, guys. All right, we're back once again. Mild Sauce Radio, Jake Krez, Steve Breit. This is the Rock Discovery Show on Mild Sauce Radio. And we just had Attaboy. That one was Brickwave.
Yep, Brickwave. Another track off that first record. Again, I mean, as you can hear, great fucking energy. Love hearing them, love seeing them. If you get a chance, if you see these guys touring around, definitely do yourself a favor and check them out. And like I said, their record came out in the end of 2016, so I am highly anticipating seeing them and checking out their new stuff this year.
And what was the name of the album for people who are trying to find it?
All right, so that last two songs you heard, it was a band called Attaboy, Attaboi, one word, and their album is Salt, and you can find that on Bandcamp.
Very dope, very dope. And that's another Chicago band for all you out here looking for that rock flavor a little bit. I know it's easy, social media and everything, to get into the R&B and hip-hop world for whatever reason. I still haven't figured that out myself. This is a discussion that me and Steve have all the time. But what else we got? You have Steve, if you can't see on the camera right now, has a full stack of CDs and papers. He came this is a very serious music discovery situation happening right now. Who else we got lined up on your stack?
Okay, so coming off, the next band we've got was actually the first song that we led in with. They're a band called La Armada. I talked about them, another great fucking performance that I saw last year. This next track you're going to hear, their new record comes out February 18th. So they don't have anything super new out right now. So what we're listening to right now is a couple tracks off of their Crisis EP, which was released in the end of 2014. So that first song that we led in with is called Chirac. This next song we're going to listen to is called Human Filth.
Human Filth. Let me find that one real quick. Human Filth by
La Armada.
La Armada. Here we go, guys. We're checking this one out real quick.
Will you betray tonight? Beware of the tower of the dungeon disguise. You'll be found right in the shadows. Will you betray us tonight? Beware of the snitch, of the one that made to tell you. Extortionate the treason. In this game of the cat and the mouse, why now you can't find enough medicine to secure your place in this rat race.
Back once again. This is Jake Krez and Steve Breit, Mound Sauce Radio. You just heard Dream, Forever, and what was the other one, my man? Human Filth from
La Armada.
La Armada. Very dope. That was a range of sounds, though. Like, we had the fast stuff on the front end, and then Dream, that last track, was, like, brooding and different for real. I don't have the right adjective. So
okay, so we segued. The last two tracks we heard were from a band called Code Orange. I'm sure if you're into the heavy music scene, you know, you've heard of them. They are kind of the darlings of the heavy world right now. But today is actually the 1-year anniversary of the release of that album. That was their third album called Forever. The tracks you heard were the first track, the title track, Forever, and then the last track, that mellow track, was called Dream 2. I wanted to play those. It's the bookends of the album, the first track, the last track. I think that gives you a real good range on what these guys are going for. Such brutality, such strong music. But then, as you heard in that last track, they can really switch it up and get ethereal, and they are everywhere in between. You've got radio friendly kind of hit type stuff. Well, in the context of heavy music, of course. Right. But these guys are great. Like I said, this is the 1 year anniversary of the release of that album. They played Chicago last summer. Yes.
Today is the day. January 13th.
Yep. They played Chicago open air last year and put on a great set. And like I said, this is a band, again, if you see them around, check them out. This is one of those bands that you're never going to be able to see them in as small a venue again. You know what I mean? Like
they're at that cusp point.
They're right on that cusp where they're only going to be playing bigger and bigger venues at this point. You know what I mean?
That's a great recommendation then. Catch them before you can't catch them anymore.
Exactly.
Code Orange was the name?
Code Orange, yeah.
Very dope.
Yeah.
All right, man. We're flipping through your sheets here. You see him flipping these papers over here.
I take my notes. I want to come prepared.
Absolutely, man. What you got next for us?
All right. So the next band we've got, they are called Dead Cross. Okay. Now this, obviously, again, this is, if you are into that heavy music sound, you've probably heard of Dead Cross. They played Riot Fest last year. They played an afternoon set. And again, this was one of those ones where I was a little curious, like, how many people are going to show up to this set? And it was well attended, and the people that showed up were in for a treat. Now, this band is, if you know, it's Dave Lombardo, the drummer from Slayer. This is his new band.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
And they had recorded this whole album, and then when it got done, the lead singer said, I can't finish the vocals. So rather than mess around, they re-recorded the entire album after recruiting Mike Patton to come in as lead singer. So Mike Patton, if you know, he's the lead singer of Faith No More, Mr. Bungle, Fantomas. He's a alternative or rock staple for decades right now, and this is his new project.
Interesting. So you have a couple stalwarts on this project.
Absolutely, and this is one of those things that's awesome about music, like Dave Lombardo, Slayer, this guy goes back to the 80s. Same thing with Mike Patton, Faith No More, this is late 80s, and Mike Patton's a groundbreaker, I mean, he's been genre bending for as long as he's been professionally making music, and
he's still doing it.
Absolutely. And it's so great to see these guys who are not being stale. They're keeping fresh, and they're staying on top of the genres, and they're pushing music forward. They're not resting on their laurels.
That's real. I mean, do you feel as though maybe that, we can't deny the fact that rock's always been in a weird space ever since the 90s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Grunge, Nirvana kind of ruined a lot of things for rock music. But I mean, with that said, it's, I read something recently, Nickelback is the number 2 selling rock group of the last 25 years or something like that. That's not good.
Right.
But where do you see when you talk about the bands that you're finding, there's these older names and these guys who are still doing it. Do you feel maybe that's why it gets caught up in itself a little bit? For all the lack of good music and rap, you have your Lil Pumps and all that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
But they, they're young and they're they're in this stuff, and it's they're in the social media. Do you think maybe rock just is you have these guys who are great musicians for way longer than you have a typical rapper stick around, like the DJ for whoever the fuck 10 years ago is not still making new bands or acts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to put that into context, but it's cool to see it's a give and a take. I feel it's really cool that there's that longevity, but I wonder if that longevity kind of comes back the other way as well.
Right.
That might be an ignorant statement too. I don't know.
I think, generally speaking, with all kind of genres of music, there's an ebb and a flow. And I think, just the state of popular music in America and the world, today, hip hop is the punk of 40 years ago, 30 years ago. That it is, what everybody wants. It is the mainstream. And
right now. But.
Right now, absolutely. And I'm I think it's a testament to creative talent to see these guys that have been, other genres decades ago, and they can still find new avenues to explore and to advance, musical discovery around.
And that's what I think is so interesting about it. I think it's a testament to
Mm-hmm.
the genre, because to be able to, you don't have a lot of people in like hip hop and R&B that are still finding new avenues 20 years later. You know what I mean? Like, where you do like this, like, you know, you don't have, I don't know, maybe you do a little bit, but like you don't, it's not as noticed, you know, like in those genres, it's not as appreciated. I think that's what's cool about like some of the stuff you're bringing around here is that there is this like circular pattern to rock music in a way.
Yeah, and it, you know, it's nice to see like stalwarts like these guys be almost like the connective tissue between like what came before and what's going on and what's popping up right now.
Exactly. Sorry, we got off on a little tangent there, but it's actually as hell. All right, so what, we going to play a few from these guys?
Yeah, so we'll play 2 tracks off of Dead Cross's debut album. It's called just self-titled Dead Cross, and the next 2 tracks we're going to check out is called Obedience School, and then the second track we're going to hear, this is going to be a cover song for all the old-timers out there. This is a cover of an old Bauhaus song. You might have remembered it, called Bela Lugosi's Dead.
Let's do it, man. This is Steve Breit's Rock Discovery Show. I'm Jake Krez, and we're on Mild Sauce Radio. We're going to check out Obedience School from Dead Cross. Here it is.
Translucent black caves, back on the rack. Bela Lugosi's dead. The bats have left the bell tower. The victims have been bled, red velvet lines. The black box. Bela Lugosi's dead. Undead, undead, undead. Undead, undead, undead. The virgin lies piled past his tomb. Strewn with time's dead flowers are left. Bela Lugosi's dead. Bela Lugosi's dead. Undead, undead, undead. Undead, undead, undead. Bela Lugosi's dead. Bela Lugosi's dead. Bela Lugosi's dead. Bela Lugosi's dead. Undead, undead, undead. Undead, undead, undead. Undead, undead, undead.
back. It's Mild Sauce Radio. I'm Jake Krez, and your host of the show today is Steve Breit, my man with the rock in Chicago. We just listened to Clara Rancia by the band Downtown Boys. Tell us a little about Downtown Boys, my man.
All right, so Downtown Boys, love them. I've seen them a bunch of times. Must not miss. Totally fucking raw live. They are out of Connecticut. They are kind of the darlings of the hardcore scene right now. I discovered them, I think, in like 2014. Maximum Rock and Roll did a little thing on them, and I've been following them ever since.
So you catch them in Chicago when they come through, or
Absolutely,
is that something you caught when you're on the road?
Yeah. I've seen them 3 times now. The last time they played Riot Fest this year. They did a middle of the day set, like 1 in the afternoon. So, you know, it's always tough for those daytime, like, you know, punk sets, but they fucking killed it. And I've seen them. They played last year. They did. I forget which street fest it was. It was a street fest, but it was great because they are queercore, Latino, punk, you know, genre, bending. And this was a street fest. Oh fuck, what was it? I forget what street fest.
One of the million.
Yeah, one of the million block
million
parties, right?
fest.
But it was great because it was a whole bunch of like Trixies like out in these windows, and then they were calling out the neighborhood and pointing people out and be like, "You are gentrifying this neighborhood. You are kicking the affordable people out of this town. You know, what the fuck are you doing? Be conscious. Be aware of yourself." I mean, they really fucking laid down. You know what I mean? Like their beliefs, and it was raw as fuck. It was great seeing them, and you know, they are always owning it. I've seen I actually met them at South by Southwest last spring, and nicest people you could ever meet in the world. But they were holding their feet to the fire down in Austin last year with ICE and everything going on with politics.
Sure.
If you recall, there was immigration officials were trying to prevent bands from coming in and
I do remember that.
And Downtown Boys had enough clout to where they were protesting South by and saying, you know, these guys can't come in. We're not going to do your showcases. We're not going to play. And they were able to change some minds. And
that's cool.
Yeah. Much respect.
Well, I would say like the thing I appreciate about the music that you always turn me on to, or even the stuff that you brought into the show today, is like it's a lot of, I think, the outside world, or, you know, like the stereotype of like rock or hard metal is that it's like, you know, goes against the grain just to go against the grain. You know what I mean? And the music you usually introduce me to is like not that. It's like rock being used for political causes or social ills, or like, for those of you out here listening, Steve once turned me on to a Nigerian punk rock motorcycle club. Like, what the hell was that? But it's always got this very cool like sense of like rock, steadfast rockness, but also having the like social cues to go forward, which I like. I think like me personally, that's why we're on the show now. That's why I was like talking about rock music, because you turn me on to stuff that I wouldn't typically assume would be rock-esque. You know what I mean?
Right. And, you know, again, talking about that connective tissue and you know, how things relate over longer periods of time. You know, Downtown Boys is just kind of carrying the torch of bands like Fugazi and other, you know, politically active bands over the course of the decades in this, you know what I mean, like post-punk scene. And to even, you know, point to the matter, like, this new record, Cost of Living, from Downtown Boys, it's produced by Guy Piccato, who is, you know, one of the founding members of Fugazi. So it's like that connective tissue is there, and they are just carrying the torch, you know what I mean, on from decades of, you know, of this mindset.
Yeah, again, like that's the kind of thing that I think gets lost a lot of times, and like the understanding of rock music today. That, again, appreciate you turning us on to this side of the world, man. Speaking of turning us on to some new stuff, what else you got for us?
Okay,
we got one more band to rock out.
Yeah, so our final band for this hour is bringing it back to Chicago, bringing it back local, but keeping it on that Latino forward tip that we just came off of with Downtown Boys. We've got Feruza Bruta, and I may be butchering this name, but they are Chicago Southside Pilsen. Their first...
Shout out Pilsen, by the way, man.
Hell yeah. And again, I feel horrible because when I was in high school, I took German, so I'm going to butcher all this Spanish. But their debut album came out June of 2017. It's called Verdugo by Feruza Bruta. And like I said, they are Pilsen, Southside. Saw them this fall at Archer Ballroom. They fucking wrecked it. I mean, they came out, and like I said, this is a brand new band, first release, and they came out owning the stage, like far more than you'd expect of like, you know, new band, first album, not many shows under their belt. And they just came out just tight and just so energetic, and it was really refreshing and just a really fucking powerful set. So we'll hear a couple of tracks off of that.
What's interesting, not to cut you off, but a lot of the stuff
yeah.
you're saying about a lot of these bands you played today are from like the Pilsen neighborhood or that area in the southwest side. Like, is that like a burgeoning thing? Is that something people should be paying attention to generally?
Absolutely, keep an eye out. You know, I think one of the, I don't know, this may sound stupid, but like one of the overarching thematics that I kind of felt coming out of last year, and it's not to say that it hasn't been in prior years, but it really kind of honed into a point for me last year, was like the innovative stuff, the stuff that was really blowing me away, and the stuff that I found myself coming back to, you know, again and again and listening to over the course of last year. It was not like, you know, straight white dudes, you know what I mean? It was black, brown, it was Latino, it was Asian, it was, you know, utterly multicultural, and it was the South Side, it was Northwest Indiana, it's Pilsen, you know, it is areas where, you know, if you're not looking in those areas and you're not keeping an eye out in these, you know what I mean, in these spots, you know, you're behind the game, and you really got to keep up, man. And
hey, we're doing our best, man. You're helping us out.
Absolutely.
All right, so you were about to segue us into a couple of songs real quick.
Yeah, so the next two tracks we're gonna hear, like I said, is Feruza Bruta, down Pilsen Proud. Let me see, Hijos de la Cala.
No, that's not how you say that.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
Hijos de la Calle.
There you go. There you go.
I don't even know Spanish. Like, all right, man, we're going to check out Hijos de la Calle.
Yeah, there you go. And then the title track of their first record.
And Verdugo.
Thank you.
And this is from the band, give us it one more time.
Feruza Bruta.
Feruza Bruta. This is Hijos de la Calle. Check it out. Miles House Radio is kind of hot. Hey, and that was Vertigo by Fuerza Bruta. Before that, we had Hijos de la Calle. Some new music from Pilsen, southwest side of the city. That one was dope, man. That was a little bit of a range as well. Like, I appreciate everything you brought through. It hasn't been like in one key. Everybody's kind of had a range of sounds.
Absolutely. And as you can hear, and if you've been listening to punk long enough, this stuff, it's interesting because they Southside Pilsen band, and they harken back to classic European early '80s oi from England and France, which is very interesting.
Well, you know that better than anybody. I don't know that well. I'll take your word for it. No, but man, thank you for bringing it out. We're gonna wrap up this show today with Steve Breit's Magical Rock Discovery Show. I don't know what we're calling it yet. We're still working on the name, but come back next week. We're going to be back again next week with Steve for part 2 of Bands to Watch from in and around Chicago and the whole country as far as rock is concerned. Man, thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. This has been Mild Sauce Radio. This is Jay Krez and Steve Breit. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back again next week.
All right, cheers.